Hello and welcome back to Homeschool Together. Thanks so much for joining us. This week, we are finally finishing the dinosaurs. The marine world of the Mesozoic was the focus this week, and we personally focused on the Loch Ness Monster, which is known as a plesiosaur, and convergent evolution. We'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later, but those were our two main focuses for this week. Before we get going, we want to make a point of saying that this was a very short week for us, and we felt like this week could have a number of things. We were just talking about it off camera before we started. We felt like you could have combined this week with the previous week, talking about the pterosaurs, into one kind of monolithic week. So if you're at home planning this curriculum, these 2 weeks, I felt like you could bring them together. You could strip it down. You've done so much dinosaurs coming up to this. Combine the two. And even in the previous weeks, we talked about marine life. We talked about pterosaurs. We talked about all these things. And then to have a complete week focused on it, and then another week focused on marine life, I felt like you could combine this. And if you're feeling like you want to be even more aggressive, roll the pterosaurs into, the Triassic period, and roll the marine life into, say, the Cretaceous period, and have at it. And then you'd be done with at like 3 or 4, 4 or 5 sections of dinosaurs instead of like the 7 that it looks like it became.
Yeah, so I think definitely if you want to take your time, I mean, hey, go for it. And that's the way that the schedule we went. But having actually done it at this point, we really think you could roll these into the previous sections. It would be fine.
It's no comment on the books or the content or the curriculum. It's just like, I just felt we could have combined them. But the funny thing is,
heavy reading week. That's the thing. Neither of these weeks involved a lot of books, and so whereas other weeks did have quite a bit, we felt like there was a lot of material there. This felt lighter. But I mean, let's say this: we do all of the books. Where in Blossom and Root says this is for the minimalist and this is for the book basket people. We be the book basket people.
We are.
So when there's less books to read for us, we are feeling like, oh, what a light week. But if you're just doing the minimalist, couple, then by all means, take the time. This would be the same amount of work as you normally do. But if you're a book basket people, there was less.
Exactly. So let's get into the books. First one, this is a book I know for a fact we are going to be using a lot going forward.
Yeah, and this is a Build Your Library spine, I believe.
Yeah, so When the Whales Walked, this is a fantastic book that has been called out in I think almost through the entire curriculum. This is kind of a spine for her. This is Build Your Library spine.
It's a beautiful book.
Beautiful book. Has so many sections talking about evolution, talking about dinosaurs, talking about different time periods, talking about different evolutionary traits. In this week, we focus mainly on the plesiosaur sections, talking about underwater life, talking about convergent evolution, why certain species tend to, in certain environments, adapt, whether you're a mammal like a dolphin or you're a shark or you're a fish. Why do they all look the same? And this idea of convergent evolution. It was a really great week to talk about, okay, now we've learned about all these creatures, sweetie. We've learned about all these animals. Why do they all look the same? Why are they all developing the same traits, the same things? And why have some of these creatures left the water and come back into the water and evolved again back into the same traits? It's because the environment is selecting for those type of traits. And this really, really important concept that she, I think she kind of understood at the end. As she's starting to understand that, changing over time, even evolution, now she's starting to think about an even longer time frame, thinking about coming out of the water, becoming a land mammal, and then from the land mammal back into the water. It's such a wild thing to think about, but, we're talking about hundreds of millions of years. Convergent evolution is a really, really interesting feature, as well as why do some animals get so large? We see this in the dinosaur time period, massive megafauna, enormous, tall, massive dinosaurs, and we know, and I know coming up, we're going to start seeing mammals do the exact same thing. And so we're seeing, environments post-massive extinctions creating these megafauna, and it was really cool to talk about a lot of those concepts, especially since I know those are what's coming up in the future.
Right. This is the second book in the trilogy series. We've already talked about when plants took over the planet, and we will be talking about the book about humans in the coming weeks.
Exactly.
So
all right.
It looks familiar. It's because it's part of the
Yet another dinosaur book.
Well, so we want to highlight, we're reading all the same, we're using the same books over and over, week after week. So we wanted to highlight one of them that we had used that wasn't part of the curriculum. This is Dinosaurium.
A little bit lighter reading, not as complex as
it is. This is part of the, it's called the Welcome to the Museum series. So if you like this art style, I love how large this book is.
Very big. I mean, we are not existing. Yeah. This is
It's a large book. It's got beautiful large pictures. It's all just focusing on each
classes of dinosaurs and individual dinosaurs.
Right. It's got some beautiful pictures. So we wanted to highlight this for you. If you're having trouble finding some of the other books and your library happens to have Dinosaurium, it's a really fun one to flip through, especially if your kid gets really into a certain type of dinosaur. You want to get like a lot of books to really look that up. This is another great one. And the art is really, it's almost kind of like throwback science art, and so
exactly
we really enjoyed it, and we wanted to show it to you as kind of an alternate spine that you could use through the dinosaur weeks.
And since we were doing kind of a roundup around plesiosaurs, I had to dip into, just like last week with the pterosaurs, I dipped into all the various dinosaur books that we have here.
The ones that we've already talked about.
We've already talked about, and then opened up to those sections that talked about, underwater marine life or pterosaurs like we did last week. I use those books as sources for this week. They're called out in the curriculums to go back to those sections. So with respect to books this week, that was about it.
Right. These were the only new ones
we were constantly using the books that we've already referenced. So we're not talking about anything super new. Regarding videos, a lot of great videos that were referenced talking about plesiosaurs, but also beginning to talk a little bit about the idea of the convergent evolution, where we saw ichthyosaurs, which is like a reptile, fish-based a dinosaur, mosasaur, which is more of a dinosaur, very similar,
like a crocodile, giant crocodile thing.
And then talking about the plesiosaurs, which is more like kind of a Loch Ness monster, kind of swimmer with a long neck, but again, all developing fins, more aerodynamic bodies, even developing straight into like a fish, like a kind of a proto shark and things of that nature. We talked a lot about how these creatures tend to have very similar body types and body styles, while we were talking about the plesiosaurs. So really nice there. And then also on Prehistoric Planet, there were some really nice videos. So we talked about that last week and then maybe a couple weeks before.
Right, this is the Apple TV Plus series.
Yep.
It's wonderful. It's worth a subscription price.
And I believe they had an entire section around the Elasmosaurus, which is kind of a form of plesiosaur, but long neck, small little chomper head, kind of a round egg-shaped body with these like flippers. And that leads right into our artwork this week, which was from our air clay. A lot of stuff did not survive well this week.
Didn't survive the 3-year-old.
3-year-old fingers poking.
They made it. You made it during nap, and then when she woke up, she was like, she got all excited and she touched everything.
So you can see the nice little plesiosaur there with a little This is not bad. My daughter did.
No, not bad. Yours was good.
Mine was really nice.
Yours was good until it died.
And I lost my head here. So you can see a nice little head here, and the fins are just scattered everywhere. But what was funny was that we watched the Prehistoric Planet video, like, oh my God, a month and a half, 2 months ago. And my daughter remembered that the Elasmosaur went and ate a bunch of rocks to do ballasting and to help grind up the food.
Right.
And so when she finished, and I'm sitting over here, doing textures and dimpling on mine, she's building little rocks for her Elasmosaurus to eat. And I'm like, what are you doing? Are those eggs? She goes, no, those are the rocks, Daddy, that he ate at the bottom of the lake.
Don't you remember in the video?
Yeah.
So
it was funny
really
how
having an impact. She is remembering.
It's working. No, I have to do, it's working. No. Prequel, Star Wars prequel reference there. Anyway, that's very sad. But anyway, that again, it was a very short week.
Yeah, this wasn't a long one.
We've been dealing with illnesses, and it's been going for a few weeks now. Yeah. So we had a short week in the thing, but that's okay, right? You at home can understand that. Hey, listen, the world's not revolving well around us this week. Let's take it a little bit easy, have some fun, do some air clay, talk about a few books, focus on a certain animal. Watch some videos.
This could be a fun one too if you wanted to watch like the movie The Water Horse, which we watched when we were studying Scotland, or wanted to do some documentaries on the Loch Ness Monster. Definitely. If you're also sick and need to just watch videos, there could be some good things there.
Embrace your inner conspiracy theories, yes. Yes, how many Elasmosauruses are in the Loch Ness?
But I mean, I think that's cool, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's a myth and stuff, but there's actually a couple of really good books on it that we did for Scotland. So you can check out our resource guide for Europe if you want to see some books about the Loch Ness Monster. Absolutely. But definitely, The Water Horse was a cute movie. And absolutely. Yeah, if you're looking for some fun.
So this is a short video, short week. We hope you enjoy it. We're finally leaving the dinosaurs. That gosh darn asteroid finally hit, and we are moving on to mammals, the age of mammals, the Cenozoic period, and ultimately beginning to talk about human beings. So we've gone along for 4.5 billion years here talking about life, and we're finally getting to our little our little window of the cosmic story. So it's getting exciting. I think I'm really going to be excited about this because we're finally hitting stuff that my daughter can understand, that because it's starting to become tangible to who she is and where she's come from. So I think it's a really fun little period here, and it'll be the part where we wrap it all up. So
that's right.
See you next week in mammal time.